We'll go through introductions. Karen McWhirter, Board of Finance.
Nairi Peck, Fiscal Officer.
Paul Zolpa, First Selectman.
Stan Love, Board of Finance.
Andy Sherman, Board of Finance.
Suzanne Levick, Board of Finance.
Mike Cunningham, Board of Finance.
Thank you. And with that, we'll refer to public comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to First Selectman's comments.
Okay, so just a couple of updates. First, we've successfully completed the contract negotiation for the police department, and that will be signed by Friday. Negotiations with the supervisors union, administrative assistants, and public works are still ongoing. Auditors completed their audit visit on June 29th and June 30th. Fiscal office is working to provide all requested documentation by August 4th. And the auditors will be returning August 18th through the 20th for the field work, and with the final audit report expected in October. Just a reminder for everyone here, and I know it's going to be late, but we need to get the documents together for the annual report. So there's a request to have reports in, but you will not be required until you get the audit. We
Thank you.
know that, but we've asked everyone else to provide the
Yeah,
stuff
thank you.
by August 7th. And then what we'll do is Sue Ellen will be putting together the document, but we will need some comments from you, Karen, in the front portion of it. And if there's a dedication, the board will have to do those
We'll
two
talk about
items.
that.
If you can get that together for us, that'd be great. Just a quick word on the South Green conveyance. We received a letter from the state of Connecticut yesterday. They've approved the transfer of the state-owned land at South Green to us. They're going to retain approximately 27 feet from the center line of US Route 6, but it means that all the monuments and plaques on that land will be conveyed to the town, so we will not have to move anything on there. The department will also retain any land or easements necessary for drainage infrastructure within the release area, and there is one drain that's on the other side of the monument, so it's on the other side of Park Road. They'll be retaining a piece of that as well because there's a drain right in the middle of that. They're preparing right now the release map, and then once the release map is done, it will be reviewed through the state in OPM, and then they'll send it to us for statutory approval. Let's see, grant funding for the transition to .gov has been awarded. Project planning is currently underway. Based on last night, we're moving to a new website supplier. We've chose Civic Plus to do that. So when that comes live, we'll plan at that point to move over to .gov. So that will probably happen in March of 2027. The grant that we have must be finished by November 2027. So we'll still have it in enough time. Our ERP system, again, you've got the documentation here. Nairi did a phenomenal job putting that package together. I want to thank her, the team, Karen and Stan also participated in the review. And we chose OpenGov as our new ERP supplier. I think it's going to be an awesome partnership, and it's going to deliver a lot of new functionality that's going to help us speed up the reporting process. One of the things that OpenGov will allow us to do is to give other people read access. So you should be able to pull a report anytime. So it doesn't have to wait for Nairi to crank through stuff. You can actually go in and start to run a lot of that stuff. There'll be a public portal so that there's not only the Board of Finance will be able to see it, but actually any resident can actually go in and run reports and see exactly how the town is spending money. So I think it's going to be a great asset for us. So we awarded that contract yesterday. Our town attorney is reviewing the terms and conditions. Our hope is to have the PO issued by Friday, and then we'll have a project manager assigned, and work will start immediately. There's a plan in there. There's a timeline. You'll see it'll come through different phases of this. It'll probably be starting in late August, early September, and will be completed by September of 2027 for everything, and that's including the human capital management portion of it, as well as whatever all the other module was. Payroll. Thank you. Payroll, time and attendance. And we're going to be starting with the financial side, and then follow that with budget, and then finally with the human capital and payroll. So it'll be staged over that period of time. And again, the presentations are there. And again, thanks to OpenGov. I think it's going to be a great partnership. The other thing that we have is you will be reviewing tonight the transfers requests. We did review those yesterday, recommended a number of transfers to come over. Frankly, I'm disturbed on the number of transfers that we have. We had over 100 lines out of our 479 lines that were over budget. So Nairi and I have been talking about how we can actually get that stuff under control. And the problem is that our current ERP system does not allow us to go in and do that. We don't have a way to look at how the budget's going. And one of the things that the new ERP system will do is it will flag any PO that's put in or any purchase rec that's put in. If the purchase rec requirement goes over budget, it will flag it, and it will not allow it to go through until there's a manual override. So it's going to be, a help for us and hopefully start to drive some of these things down. But so that's one item that we're looking at. And then there's some we're looking at from a personnel standpoint, putting in some metrics. And one of the metrics will be is your accuracy of your budget and holding to whatever budget you got. So hopefully we can start to address some of that over the next couple of months. The other thing that we did was we approved last night, the Board of Selectmen approved 4 new job descriptions. This is in relation to Public Works, putting in a working foreman, replacing the supervising foreman with a working foreman, as well as changing the job descriptions for operators and maintainers. The union has supported that, and we approved that last night. And then we also approved the lead custodian and the IT coordinator. And both of those are out on, we're actively searching for that now. So that actually went up online today. I think that's it.
Okay. Chairman's comments. It's been a busy few months, especially in the last month as we approached year end. The finalization and the selection of an ERP vendor and website vendor. Both of the ERP and website vendor presentations were made last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting. Both requests were approved by the Board of Selectmen, and I presented each of you a copy for your review and reference. Tonight's reporting and transfers represent the initial closing transfers. And I stress that because I don't want anybody to take this reporting and think that, oh, this is year end and we have our numbers. There's a lot to still take place. And while we all are aware from prior audits, there are not year end closing procedures to reference. I realize it's the preference of the Board of Finance to have monthly reporting available sooner, but currently it isn't a given option with our processes and challenges. That said, I know Nairi and her team are working through the process. Items like bond, LOSIP, FEMA, ARPA, and the reversal of last year's audit journal entries concerning the movement of funds are still on the to-do list. The fiscal office is focused on providing complete and accurate reporting, not just distributing a report for the sake of checking it off the list. In the coming months, with the implementation of the new ERP software, there will be a lot of challenges. A new chart of account needs to be created to start the process. The need to test and verify reports and balances as data is converted will need to be done. All of this will be in addition to the very labor-intensive, paper-focused process we currently have in place. If you have time and interest in assisting in this process when needed, please let Nairi know. This is a very exciting time for the town of Woodbury, despite the challenges and demands of such a project. And with that, we'll move on to our regular meeting minutes for approval. Accept a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 24th, 2026.
Second.
Thank you, Stan and Andy. Any discussion, changes, comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. With that, Nairi, we'll turn it over to look at revenues, expenditures, and capital items.
Thank you, everyone. We're first going to review revenue. I did not print out revenue because it's just the normal size format. And as I was printing these, I honestly didn't even think about it. So I apologize for that. What I'm going to focus on is basically the year to date. Now that we've had a full year under our belt, budget's done at one number for a full year. So this is the only time during the year where we can actually look at it in full. First section is tax revenue. Tax revenue is coming in favorable by 413,000. Property taxes were over 101% to budget, which is good. The other numbers, the supplemental motor vehicle and such, those are also over. And those are basically just a big guess at budget time. The second section is interest income. Interest has been declining over the last year, but especially in the month of June, we also have lower tax collections in the month of June, and several payments that we only make once a year, such as the pension contribution, which was $608,000. We had anticipated, if you recall, the last 2 months, I was thinking we were going to be about $50,000 below budget for interest. We're actually a little bit slightly more unfavorable, about $57,000. Miscellaneous state grants, that's where we budgeted the cybersecurity grant in fiscal year 25-26. We're currently working with the ad hoc committee to determine the grant requirements and how the funding will be implemented, and whether the requirement of migrating to G3, how to do that, is that necessary, and so forth. The EMPG revenue, that's generally about $5,000 a year, but they did do a couple years of catch up. So that's why that's higher than normal. The town road and town aid roads line is favorable by nearly $100,000. That's just due to the state allocation received, which exceeded the amount they originally budgeted. LOSUP, in the month we recognized $23,000 as projects continue and revenue is recognized. We've recognized $147,000 for the year. In the Medicare subsidy line, we've got a retiree drug subsidy. It's actually the last subsidy we'll get for this. It relates to 2024, 2025. It was about $35,000. We will not get any additional subsidies, as the town has transitioned the retirees to a fully insured Medicare Part D plan through Amwins. So we're no longer eligible for that reimbursement. If you go to the departmental section, within the departmental revenues, you'll see that several categories have performed favorably compared to budget. Park and Rec field fees was not one of them. They were actually below budget. That's primarily just due to an aggressive revenue budget for that line item. Town clerk fees exceeded budget by approximately $59,000 as a result of higher than anticipated activity. Building permit revenue was favorable by about $258,000. The large drivers for that were the solar farm permits totaling $152,000, 67 for Loeb Farm, and 85 for Fawn Meadow. The next largest permit issued in the year was a $25,000 permit for 1080 Main Street South in April. Nothing else really stands out significant within building permits other than just higher volume. Transfer station bag fees exceeded budget by $24,000. Senior services revenue was favorable by $12,000. And Park and Rec program revenue underperformed budget due to aggressive revenue projections, just like the field fee income. However, if you look at their related program expenditures, they were also $14,000 below budget. When you look at total Park and Rec program fee revenue expenses for the year, it was $184,000. So you'll see that in the expenditures. Private duty police traffic administration fees exceeded budget by approximately $87,000. This favorable variance was aided by increased traffic control activity associated with the Route 317 bridge project, which required months-long detour. While the detour may have tested the patience of local drivers and at least one fiscal officer trying to get back to work, it also generated additional demand for police traffic services and corresponding administrative revenue fees. In other revenues, if you recall, last month, we recognized approximately $82,000 in the opioid settlement funding. Consistent with the intended use of the funds, the revenue was matched against qualifying expenditures, including a purchase of a Life Pack 35 advanced monitor defibrillator for the Woodbury Ambulance Association, and new ADs for the police department, and one for the show building that's outside Ray's office. Year-to-date miscellaneous and fixed asset revenues for the year was due to the sale of the fire trucks. That was $70,500, and the police car of $1,000. Did anyone have any other questions on revenues?
Yeah, where are the misses at Park and Rec? You say an aggressive budget. I don't recall having an aggressive budget for Park and Rec, but where are the misses there?
When you look at the last 2 years of actuals, they don't even come close to what was budgeted for this year. And Graham, who is currently now the director of Park and Rec, was not the one that created the budget for the Park and Rec line. So I don't see anything out of the ordinary in Park and Rec. And we have started asking them for a monthly list of programs just to see where they're netting out, like what are they bringing in, what are they spending.
That you're doing for Park and Rec, Senior Center.
Senior Center.
And library, right?
Yeah. It's a new requirement for them.
Right.
But when you look at the past trends of the last 2 years, the budget was way higher. And there was no, when I talked to Graham and I asked him to look at his emails, there was nothing that was stated which said why they made it higher. You know, why they had such a high number for that.
So prior to this, they didn't have to have anything detailed between Park and Rec, Senior Center, and Library as far as going with their programs.
They have provided reports in the past, but not on a regular basis.
When asked.
Yeah, when asked. But now that's going to be a
It'll be
requirement.
monthly. Yeah.
So I think one of the,
So the past 2 years we missed revenue in Park and Rec.
Yes.
Yes. And field fee income.
so I think one of the reasons why that number actually went up was because there was a field fee increase. And I think there was just a guess as to whether or not that field fee increase was actually going to drive those actual revenues. And that's just a guess, Mike. I just remember that, in the Board of Selectmen meeting, they went through and they revised a number of the field fees and rental fees in there.
Right. But I think kind of to Mike's point, as far as the comparison on the program side between the income and the expenses, there isn't the supporting documentation that supports the number in the budget. And that's
Right.
just something we're going to really have to be.
Right.
Very
And
hard
that's
about
something,
this.
and that's something we're going to be addressing as part of our metrics, looking at metrics from each department
Performance.
standpoint.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
What's that going to be applied to? They're reviewed or they're
Yes. Yes, we're developing a review process, working with the labor attorney right now to define that. But I already have something that's laid out.
and that's okay through the union? Does it apply to a union contract?
We've had that conversation with the unions. I'm not going to get a lot into because we're still in negotiations with the stuff, but yes, there have been discussions with that.
Any other questions for Nairi at this stage? No.
You can have by 11 because the other one was a little bit of an eye chart. Because the budget transfer process is occurring concurrently, this report, which is typically presented in summary form, is being provided in greater detail for transparency. So my intent is not to review every single line item individually, but rather to highlight the more significant variances from budget. So for ease of review, the budget transfers that will be discussed next are also referenced in the worksheet, which is why it's so long, which will allow you to see how the transfers relate to the reported expenditure variances. And I'll talk a little bit about the process that I went through in the next section when we go to budget transfers. The first selectman budget remains favorable year to date and has sufficient overall savings to absorb all line item overages. Significant savings are realized in the charter revision account, approximately $10,000 since that was the charter was finalized. Legal fees of approximately $11,000, and from the vacancy in the executive assistant position. These savings more than offset the overage in the executive and selectmen line items, which was payroll, which was primarily attributable to the selectmen's salary increase approved after the budget was developed and adopted. We are still in ongoing negotiations with the labor unions, which we would have expected by this time to have been done with the labor union contracts. So that has driven a little bit of the favorability in this line item, but we have received all the bills through the month of June from all the attorneys. The elections department also finished the year favorably and was able to absorb their overages in both the executive and the election materials accounts. The larger overages were attributed to the implementation of early voting, which increased operational and material costs beyond original budget assumptions. Their overall department savings were sufficient to offset these additional expenses. The fiscal office was able to absorb an overage in the data processing account, which resulted from the establishment of a purchase order that we put together related to a cybersecurity grant that I just talked about that was awarded during the fiscal year. Those expenditures were in the budget for 25 and 26. So those have gone, we've actually gotten an estimate from Vancord, and we're still working through with the ad hoc technology committee, but that was a little higher than anticipated. The additional expense was offset by salary savings generated from the fiscal officer vacancy at the beginning of the year, allowing the department to remain within its overall budget. If you look at the town clerk's budget, the department received a $5,000 historical document preservation grant during the year. The expenditures are reflected in the record restoration account, relate directly to the grant that was received, and that'll be a budget transfer that you will see. A quick comment on the town hall line item. As we transition to the new ERP, I want everyone to be aware that the telephone, the office supplies expenses, which are now sitting on town hall, will be moved back to the departments. Under the current structure, there's limited department accountability for these costs because they're managed centrally. So there's a lot of budget transfers within those, but they do net out. The new system will provide enhanced reporting capabilities at the expense line item level, giving departments greater visibility into their spending and allowing management to better track costs and hold departments accountable for budget performance in these areas. So after all those netted out, what we're left with is an overage in the building maintenance account. So during the year, we incurred a significant unplanned expense related to the generator. We had to replace the radiator recently. That was about just over a $10,000 expense, which was necessary to maintain the reliability of the operation of the generator. When you look at the police department, overall, the police department finished the year approximately $97,000 favorable to budget, despite experiencing several significant line item variances. The most notable overages were in the resident state trooper account, which was approximately $18,000, and the other state trooper account, approximately $22,000. This was largely driven by higher than anticipated state billings, particularly for fringe benefits costs. These overages were more than offset by savings in the operations account, which is the salaries account, which benefited from vacant positions and additional retirements that have occurred during the year. Another unfavorable variance that occurred was the gasoline account. Fuel costs increased due to both higher consumption and higher prices. The average cost per gallon increased by approximately 30 cents from $2.39 a gallon last year to $2.70. In addition, the fuel increased by roughly 3,000 gallons over the prior year's consumption of approximately 17,000 gallons. The combination of the higher fuel prices and increased wages resulted in gasoline expenditures exceeding budget by about $10,000. For fire department, the fire department faced several budget challenges during the year, most notably increased turnout gear costs, which resulted in an unfavorable variance of approximately $7,000 in that line item. The department also incurred an unplanned expense of approximately $6,000 to replace a truck light bar due to a safety-related issue. To offset these expenses, we needed to adjust them to contingency. Next department, animal control. Animal control finished the year approximately 18,000 unfavorable to budget, driven primarily by payroll-related costs. Unlike some departments that were able to offset overages through savings in other accounts, animal control had limited opportunities to do so, requiring the use of contingency funds to cover the shortfall. This is an area we will continue to monitor closely as the department appears to be taking in a growing number of animals requiring medical treatment and specialized care. Going forward, we will need to evaluate the operational and financial impacts of this trend and determine the most sustainable approach to managing these increased service demands. So another big department is the highway department. We've been talking about the overtime the majority of the year. So the primary drivers within the highway division were the overtime and a one-time professional service expense. Overtime exceeded budget by approximately $75,000 due to the number and severity of the snow events experienced in the past winter, which requires significant staffing and response efforts. In addition, the department received an invoice for the emergency action plan related to Radar Pond Dam, creating an additional unbudgeted expenditure. Despite these overages, the Public Works Department was able to offset the additional costs through savings in other payroll accounts resulting from staff vacancies, such as when Rich left, we never backfilled. We promoted Dave, we didn't backfill Dave. And there was also some employees out on workers' comp during the year. The Parks, Trees, and Line budget also finished favorably. However, much of that positive variance is attributed to eligible tree work being charged to LoSiP entitlement rather than the operating budget. Park and Rec finished the year with several unfavorable line item variances, but was able to fully absorb those overages in the department. As discussed during the revenue review, the department realized savings in program expenditures, which helped offset some of these variances. The overages were not the result of overall increased spending, but rather expenses being charged to line items where insufficient budgets had been allocated, while the available budget remained in other department accounts. A significant contributor to this issue is the seasonal summer payroll accounts, which are active for only a few months each year and can be difficult to estimate precisely. This reflects the budget allocation issue rather than an overall spending concern and will be reviewed as part of the upcoming budget development process for next year. Group medical insurance. That is the primary driver of the favorable variance within fringe benefits. The two areas that exceeded budget were actual pension fees and unemployment compensation. Actuarial fees were higher than anticipated due to an increased number of employees requesting pension calculations and retirement reports during the year. The unemployment overage relates to a payment made on behalf of a former employee, E. King, which was billed directly by the state of Connecticut and pertained to a matter that was not properly addressed under the prior administration. As a side note, health insurance expenditures will receive a more detailed review this year. As a reminder, the fiscal year 26-27 budget was built upon the current year's health insurance budget, which had already reflected a 30% increase. Based on the trends and year-end results, we believe there might be room within this account. However, we will continue to closely monitor costs to better understand the long-term impact on future budgets. My goal is to be transparent with the board, and this line may present opportunities as we move through the 26-27 fiscal year. In contingency, the departments requiring the use of contingency were the tax collector, the town hall, the fire department, animal control, transfer station, and social services. In addition, small contingency transfers were required for Regional School District 14, which was $3, and bond interest accounts, primarily for year-end balancing and rounding. The miscellaneous account experienced approximately $43,000 in unplanned expenditures related to separation payments. Those are listed out on this report of who those were for. While these payments are required under contractual agreements, they are not specifically budgeted each year because the timing and occurrence are difficult to predict. In addition, insurance costs increased during the year as coverage was added for the firehouse and the 3 communication towers that had previously not been insured. Did anyone have any other questions on the expenditures?
If next time we can go by department and then ask questions, maybe I think it might be a little bit easier, but that's for future reference. On the time that I've been on the Board of Finance, I've never seen employees request pension estimates. Isn't that something that is available to them on a
It is,
regular
but we have to
basis?
pay the.
We have to pay the actuary every
They
time
don't get
someone.
reports on their pension on a regular basis.
No.
Why is that? I get 401k information.
It's different. The pension
I've
needs to
never
go.
seen this before.
'Cause don't forget, your 401k is defined contribution.
Right.
This is
I
defined
know- I know
benefit.
it is, but the pension, they don't get any information on their pension and what.
No, because it has to come from an actuary, and the actuary actually has to calculate it. And it costs us $400 every time they ask.
People can ask, and we have to, or the actuary has to deliver, but there's no requirement that anybody say in advance when they're gonna do that. And there's no, I'm not sure if there's a limit on the number. If it is, it's.
There isn't
Oh,
an
no.
annual report that you get on a pension. The only thing you would get on a pension on a regular basis was to say, yes, you're a member of a pension and, you know, these are the dollars in total. But relative to what
Total to
you,
the individual?
no, total to what is in the pension. For the individual itself, what they will get paid out isn't done until they make that request. And at that stage of the game, the town has to pay for each person to have that done.
That's crazy.
What,
It's been that
Just
way
sign
for
on
years.
with a username and a password, and they would get stuff.
No,
No.
that's with a 401k, not with pension. And we also
So
had
the
like
so the
4.
employee has no idea what his retirement is until he gets.
that's why,
Correct.
that's in part why they make these requests, is they.
Right, to see what they're going
Try
to
to find out how much they have or would get, and then they
How
make a
often
decision
can
as
they
to whether
do the
they're going to
request?
retire or not.
I don't know that there's a limit.
It's probably in the personnel rules. We'll have to go back and get you an answer on that. I don't know if, it could be once a month. I don't know.
And
We
we
do-
send it to the pension
So we
committee
can
or
have
something?
every employee.
The pension
Isn't that
committee,
included?
We make a
the-
request every month.
No, only the ones that are on defined benefit.
For the pension,
Right.
anybody who's a participant.
Right.
I don't know
But-
that they can do it monthly.
no.
I want to say it's an annual thing,
Annual.
is what,
But again, it's whatever is in the pension. It would set her in the personnel
Well, I'm
rules.
inquiring, Cause I'll be honest, I have not seen it, so.
so typically, people, when they are considering retiring, will often make a request, say a year or two prior to when they think that they're going to retire, to your point, to get an idea as to what they think that number is going to be.
It's crazy.
And it's a problem that's under discussion with, as part of the evaluation of the submissions for the new actuarial and other contractors that get used by the
Yeah.
pension board.
During the meeting at the pension board, I think you guys were talking about the new actuary maybe getting something like that included, or did I mishear that, like as part of the overall management of it?
We are in the
Yeah.
middle of a contract with Milliman, so it's not something that we're going to be changing anywhere in the next 2 years. Why they did include it in the RFQ was to see what other companies can do the actuary and potentially the other items to gain some benefits and costs to group them all together.
My other question is the troopers. Now, don't we get a budget from them prior to,
We do.
and why did it go up?
The fringe benefits came in much higher, so what they budgeted versus what came in
What
actual,
the state gave us
correct,
was incorrect.
came in
By
much
a
higher.
significant amount.
Write your governor.
Huh?
Write your governor.
Was it misrepresented?
No, they give you an estimate and what came through as actual was different.
Explainably different?
Yes, $21,000 a person different.
That's quite a bit.
Yes. Sounds like it.
There's nothing in here that has to go to town vote, right?
No.
No. And that we'll see when we get to the actual page for the transfer. We pay close attention to that.
It's all my questions.
But
Um,
I have a
sure.
few, if I may.
Sure.
There was a fair amount of cases where it seemed like there were sort of one-off, lucky, if you will, savings that we then applied to cover over expenditures. Does that suggest that we need to be more careful in our budgeting procedures when we're putting the budget together, or how do we address that? Because, we just happen to have them in the right places this time for a lot of the lines, I think.
I don't know if I can call a lot of those lucky. Like, for example, with the selectmen, we would have been over when Deb left. It took us some time to hire Sue Ellen. There's definitely a timing issue with the legal fees too. And the legal fees is really just God knows what's gonna come up over the next year. So that one's always, a little conservative, but we do have a lot of cases going on.
I think the other idea, though, of the one-offs is, especially if the dollars were not large, that department head very much could have known that they were over in this account. So we're cautious about what they were spending in another account. And there is nothing wrong with them allocating dollars within their budget that way.
I'm not
as far as that
suggesting
goes.
anything being wrong here,
Right.
but I don't know if what sort of feedback do you get, Nairi, from the department heads, and what should this board expect to get in terms of things like that? So, informally, a department head may say, well, I'm over here, but I know I'm going to be under here, and they balance out and so on. But is that something that you're tracking as they go along?
It's something that will be better able to track in a newer ERP system. So, for example, if someone's requesting to use a line item and they've met and exceeded their budget, there's going to be like a stop that says, hey, you've reached your budget.
Mhm.
And then at that point, they're going to have to go and do a budget transfer request. So I think it's something that we can better keep track of going forward. With the way that Tyler works, nothing gets stopped from going through. And different department managers are a little bit more diligent than others. There's certain departments too, like the fire department. Janet is probably the best person when it comes to budget. She's got her 30-year capital plan planned out. But when you have unexpected cost rises in things such as equipment, gear for firemen,
The turnout gear.
gear, that's something that, you're not going to cheap out on.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with
Yeah.
any of the actual actions that were being taken here. I'm just wondering, how we or how you are going to manage that. It seems like somewhat of a challenge.
I think that when we get the new system, it will be handled totally different because of the workflow, the approval of the purchase order, and how the dollars get addressed.
Yep.
Because I know, having gone through it, Irene can tell you that she does not care to sit and have to balance out over 100 lines in order to make these transfer entries.
Yeah.
And the system, as it goes online, is not really going to go into effect until about a year from now. Is that not?
Right,
About a year.
September
So
2027
we're
is the go
stuck.
live date.
We're stuck with Tyler and the existing, whatever it is, until then.
Mhm.
So, okay.
And I presume,
Well, 2028, the budget it'll be all ERP.
Yeah, it will all be open go,
So
yes.
2 years.
Yep.
2 year now.
and based on last night, it sounded as if we're going to be running both systems simultaneously for a while at least.
Well, we'll be going off of Tyler and validating reports on OpenGov. So that will be like kind of a user acceptance timing. So probably like a month of overlap,
Okay.
depending on how things go. The main driver is going to be for us to really focus on the chart of accounts and get that set up so that we can report on things that make a little bit more sense and a little bit more detail without going overboard and just get things more consistent.
And is there any additional difficulty being caused by the fact that your official go live date for OpenGov is not at the beginning of a fiscal year, but rather is 3 months in?
Nope. I actually had talked to a bunch of references that didn't, because that was my initial thought was, hey, do we go live July 1st? And actually one of the references says, no, don't go live July 1st because we'll be trying to implement the new system
Well, you're trying to do
and
year-end
do year-end
closeout.
closing. So there's actually one person I spoke to was an OpenGov reference. They actually went live mid-month, which I would have never, ever thought of,
Okay,
but they did.
all right. That sounds good. And I guess this is a general comment that almost makes our fiscal examination of I'm talking about the charter revision process here. I think that sort of the informal sense of that overall process was that it was going to be way over budget because of legal fees and things of that kind. I don't know if that happened or it didn't happen, but it's a project that obviously spans 2 years, I guess. And so looking at a 1-year budget and making a statement about a project that covers 2 years is sort of hard to make sense, I think, to people who haven't been close to that in that period of time. Is that something that we need to figure out how to address better, or?
I think we'll definitely be addressing projects that go longer than one fiscal year in the new system because we will have the capability of tracking for multiple years. We have to remember that in the system we have right now, you only have 1 year. And if you want to look at another year, you have to close that year to get to the other year. There's no, let me look at a trend for the last 5 years. You can't look at that information. So we will have much greater transparency associated with tracking something that doesn't contain itself within one fiscal year.
Okay, I mean, that was, I think it's important to have good
Oh.
processes for that because we obviously have projects that span more than 1 year and they may not be longer than a 1-year project. They just, they start.
We've had projects go on for many
Sorry?
years.
Well, you just think about trying to track a bond, right? That's going to be one of the things that we'll be able to do, like Lighthouse, 3 years, right? South Pomperaug Bridge, how many, 4 years, 5 years on that, right?
And those don't even show up on the reports that we're getting. I mean, that's all been done on Excel worksheets, where going forward, that information will be retained in OpenGov. So the reporting will be completely different than what we've seen in the past. The ability and the information that gets loaded into OpenGov on a capital project is phenomenal, which will then be able to transfer over to making it a fixed asset.
If I'm not mistaken, you can open up each line and see where the expenses were, right? Or
Yes, you'll see every
See the
invoice
drop-down.
under each one of those.
I
Yep.
remember talking about that. So,
Yep.
That's cool.
It's
It's gonna
very
be great.
And you'll actually be able to see that, that there'll be a portal. So actually on our website, there'll be an OpenGov link and it will go into the OpenGov portal, which will give you the ability to do all of that on a read basis. So you should be able to see just about everything that's in the database. And again, that's not just you, Mike, that's anybody, right? It'll be open to all residents.
Sure.
I can think of some people we ought to have special.
Any other specific questions on those?
They don't live on Main Street, do they?
Yeah,
Any other specific
That-
questions for Nairi
I
on
don't
this?
have any other
Okay.
questions on that.
Just before we, go to transfers, I know that this year it looks a little bit different. It was done that way on purpose because as Paul, Nairi, and I talked about year-end processes and what we've had in the past, as some of you may or may not remember, we would get an Excel worksheet that would say, we move from this account to this account, it's so many dollars, but we really didn't understand where it came from. And we didn't feel that that was an adequate way of reflecting the transfers. I can assure you that in the past, a lot of these little dollars were just transferred and we never, as a Board of Finance, saw them. So, as we said, Nairi spent, I don't even want to know how many hours putting this together, processing it, and then ultimately creating this transfer page. I know it was beyond tedious. I can't thank her enough for her time in making it all work. And I think that the approach that was taken will provide us with greater clarity as we look at these transfers. So with that, Nairi, why don't you talk about what you went through other than wanting to pull your hair out?
Yep. So I want to direct everyone to the budget transfer summary. That's the page that has the green highlights on it. As there was previously no formal process in place for budget transfers, I developed one. I developed it to provide greater consistency, transparency, and accountability. Everything has been consolidated into a single schedule rather than being presented individually. I know when I started, Teresa handed me like 100 blank pages of budget transfers. People would handwrite them in, they would scribble them, you couldn't read them. And that was not something that I wanted to experience myself. So this does a lot of things. One of the reasons why all the lines are highlighted green, this represents the control checks against the town charter, the budget transfer thresholds. So everything has either met the under 5% or the under $20,000, whichever was greater. So every transfer has passed the test. I also used what I felt was a logical thought process to go through these. So down the left-hand side, what I first did, I offset the departments that could offset themselves within their department. So I first reviewed all the department budgets, identified departments that were able to absorb their own line item variances through savings elsewhere within their budgets. These are noted in lines 1 through 23. I'm just going to go over high level, then we go into detail. Lines 24 through 26, these were grants that came in that were not budgeted for, that had corresponding revenue and expense. So the second group, 24, 25, 26, will be budget transfers to move the revenue and expenditures so they're in line with one another. The next ones, so 27 through 35, these were contingency transfers. So the third group includes departments that were unable to absorb their own budgets and shortfalls internally. I talked to Karen. We decided we're not going to bother the other departments to borrow from one to pay the other. We went right to contingency. So these variances have been netted against the contingency count to cover their remaining deficits. And then the last one was the budget transfer. Every year we talked about we're going to pay ourselves back to the capital reserve. And as we pay our bond down, technically we have less interest expense, but that $59,300 represents what we're going to put into the capital reserve fund as a result of the bond. The departments that netted within themselves, what I tried to do is put comments in there if there are larger items, and a lot of these we might have already talked about. So for example, the selectmen, the salary increases after the budget was completed, so those were able to be transferred out. How I reference these is, so reference number 1 on the green highlighted sheet is going to direct to reference 1 in the expenditure sheet. So the first one was a small one. The first one was just legislative.
Just pause there for a second so people can pull
Yeah.
out their documents. So if
Yeah,
you wanted to
correlate.
know the details from this summary
Yes.
sheet, you use the reference number on the side there
Right.
to the column here, and then you'll find all the line items that would total up for the item.
So Andy, it's the other one. Yep, it's that one.
That's that's where I have my notes.
So if we look at selectmen, so the selectmen salaries, what I basically did was anything highlighted in orange on the expenditures page or report is less than $5,000 and anything in red is over $5,000. So there's nothing within the selectmen budget that was over 5,000. But I was able to net out some smaller variances against the open position that we had in the executive admin line. So those are all just ins and outs. The last line, the last column before the comments, is basically what the budget balance will be after the transfers. So that calculates into. So just kind of starting from where the line items are highlighted, the budget balance is, that's how the Tyler report came out. The references to the budget transfer summary sheet. The percent remaining to budget is based off of the original Tyler report. The transfer expense, these were the transfers in and out. The transfer amount, this just takes the net of all the negative numbers. So everywhere someone was over budget, so I can calculate my 5%, less than 5% or less than $20,000. The transfer percent, again, those two numbers just rolled over to the budget summary page, and the balance is after transfer, and then the commentary. So I know there's a lot going on there.
No, that's
Thank you. Okay. So selectmen, we talked about, elections we talked about. That's basically the cost of early voting. They were under the 20,000. We talked about fiscal already. That was basically the open fiscal officer and the cybersecurity. The next two items are really small. Town clerk was the $5,000 grant that we talked about. Facilities, small dollar amount. Basically, their additional hours are over due to open positions that are open in the custodial department. So open in over in additional hours, under in regular hours. Senior center, there's a $7,000 grant offset for the chef services. They also had some slightly lower fuel costs. Land use was small. We talked about the police department. So basically that was the fuel and the resident trooper, the fringe benefit increase. The fire department is next. That was the new gear and the light bar. Going down to emergency management. We did have an unexpected public safety increase in one of the contracts, but that was offset by Code Red. But all these so far have offset within the department. Building official, small. We talked about highway, the overtime, and the dam emergency action plan. Fringe benefits we talked about.
is that people who are retired?
Yes, separation
How
payments.
many do we have retired this year?
We didn't detail
Yep.
on here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. If you go to that in the back, the people and dollar amounts associated with them, it's on the last page, are all listed there on the first third. Where you
Okay,
see
yeah,
the
I remember
reddish.
seeing that. Okay, so these positions are being replaced?
So you had,
And so if they are, they're gonna be going to the new retirement plan, correct?
Well, the new people, yes, the 401k plan, well, 457A, the defined contribution plan.
It's all for the new people.
There's no more.
Right, correct.
Crownshaw's retiring,
yes.
Yes.
good for them.
So that was the first section, everything that netted out within their own department. The next three were the grants. So we talked about the town clerk. We talked about the senior citizen grant. The other one we talked about within revenues was the opioid settlement fund. So those three transfers are just going between revenue and expense as a transfer. And then the ones below, 27 through 35, these are ones that we had to go to the contingency on. Town hall, we talked about the generator, major repair that just happened. The fire department, animal control, which we talked about already. transfer station, which Susan
Can
reminds
we
me.
go back to animal control for a minute? She's getting an influx of animals. Are they strays? Are they people that are abandoning the animals?
It's a little bit of both. We did have an animal at the end of last year when I started Denali, who was literally a drop off on the front door. He had heartworm problem, so that's a dog that you can't adopt out until they're cured. The problem is now you have one animal. You got to feed him in the morning. You got to let him out. You got to feed him at night. You got to let him out.
So we're in the adoption business.
Well, we're in the no-kill business.
We're in the no right.
But I'm just saying.
We do adopt him out.
Do we partner with any adoption agencies throughout the state? There's many, because I do adoption events. There's many, what do you call them, companies, whatever you want to call them, that do adoptions. We can't partner up with them so we don't.
Like companion?
So we don't incur those expenses.
She's not really having problems with the adopting out. It's the getting the dog healthy, and that's been
Enough
the
to
case.
adopt out.
Yes.
That's what the problem is, Mike. So even if we went to an adoption group to help us adopt it out, we still need to cure the animal of whatever disease it is.
So let me get, when the resident brings, do they bring their pet to the animal control officer or?
Sometimes they're left, like Denali
just
was
left?
left.
Or there are some that, she went out to trap, right? Because somebody dropped 2 or 3 dogs. There were 2 dogs that were dropped off, I think, by Jack's Bridge, right? And she had to go out and trap those, and they were here for a while, and she got them adopted out to a farm. But, so again, I think it's a mix. We also, there's one of the dogs that we have in there right now is the woman is in the hospital and had to abandon the dog. All right. And so those are some of the ones that we pick up as well. But I think the key is what's driving it is the overtime, is the fact that she's up there by herself and she's got to come in first thing in the morning, and she's got to come in, at 8:00 at night to feed the dogs and let them out, or whatever that timing is. So it's driving some of her overtime. And that's one of the things that's going to be my challenge is how do we go address that?
Who has the oversight for setting policy for the animal control?
So I believe some of it's state statute, because I know she does a lot of work with the state police. She'll get phone calls where she has to go in and aid the state police. When
if
there's
she's doing something that is required by the state, this is another case where we have
an unfunded mandate. Yes.
It is something, though, that Paul and Ray and Nairi have been reviewing and analyzing to better understand what's driving it as to how it might be
Right.
managed differently.
Well, that's why I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
Maybe there's other options out there.
And that's part of what we're trying to do, Mike.
Yeah.
Only
I mean,
having
we
one
need to
dog
find a way
here
to
and
do
sharing
it
on
right
responsibility.
and keep the animals' welfare in
All right.
up front and center and so on. But
We also have, there's another thing, there is an open position up there. There is an assistant animal control. So that's also driving some of the overtime, is the fact that she can't put that off on somebody and delegate
but
that
at
off
least-
to the part-time
there was
person.
some discussion, I think, last night about, or maybe it was in one of the Board of Finance meetings where increasingly there seems to be advanced medical care that's required. Maybe that came up earlier this evening.
Yeah.
You might have said it.
Yeah.
And does that mean that we have to pay for that?
We've been getting a lot of
Recourse to the
donations.
state?
So there's 2 things. One is that we're getting a lot of donations in to help with that, number 1. And number 2 is that the vet that we use, Davis Animal Hospital, has been giving us a significant discount when it goes through. So that's something that Dana's worked through. And she's also done some stuff with some of the pet shops in here. So, she depends a lot on donations. I mean, one of the things that she drives.
Yeah.
I believe they do take donations for food, Mike.
I always
And
have a
open
lot
bags
of,
and
I always
things.
have a lot of
Yeah.
donations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that'd be more than what she would more than welcome that, Mike.
All right. I'll keep
Some
that
of the
in mind.
pets, when I offered donations of food, some of the pets are on special diets too.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's where the donations come in
Yeah.
handy because they can go and buy it at
Purchase it by
cost
need.
from
So
Davis.
whenever we go through a manufacturer reset, it's all vendor buybacks, and then I
Okay,
get to donate it. So
okay,
it could be a variety.
for different
Yeah.
foods.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Do we partner up in any way with Nanawag for like their VOAG system? I still know several parents that are trying to find jobs for their kids to get those work hours in. Do they ever?
I don't know. That's a good,
Age is a problem.
yes. And also there's all, and it's also a training thing too, right? So you have to go through and be a certified animal control.
You can't just say.
Well, I
nice
was
guy.
Right, it's
saying-
like, okay, yeah, right, exactly. Ow, I got bit. Right.
Like cleaning the cages and helping wash down.
And they do get volunteers. I mean, you know, Troop 480, Troop 54 have been up there to do stuff. I know Brendan Reed and his wife Wendy go up there quite a bit to help out. So I mean, there's a number of volunteers that go up there, and I know when one of our coffee and conversations we had up at the senior center, there was a couple of people that actually volunteer up there. So there is a piece of that as well. And I think, you know, I think they would accept a non-WAG student, but most of the time when they're looking for it, it needs to be a paid position. Right. And if it's going to be a paid position up there, then you're going to need to have that certification.
Paid positions for the Nanawag students. I thought most of that was volunteer for them.
Some of it's volunteer, but for VOAG, when you're trying to, you actually have to have a paid
Really?
position. Yep.
Gotta work on that.
Well, no, I think some of it is volunteer, but it is some of it you need to be paid. So
Well, we have a nice dog pound. Animal control.
On to transfer stations.
So transfer station, I was reminded by Public Works that their budget was cut by 100,000. So they're trying to still get control over what's going on with the outside vendors that are doing it. We're trying to get control also by trying to get Wi-Fi there so we can eliminate cash payments. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. It just takes time.
That's a cash payment or the square, whatever, is that gonna be town?
So one of the things that we're looking at, yeah, so OpenGov has a commerce piece of it. And then also Civic Plus has a commerce piece. I just need to look at and figure out what's the best method to use. And then it may be, Mike, we may even say that, you know, neither of those are going to be a best fit. And maybe it's Square that feeds into something. So it's on our list. And as soon as we get our IT guy, we'll be able to get some signal up there. I mean, there's two guys that can actually do it, but we're both very busy. So
I understand that. When the vendors come and pick up product at the transfer station, do we get a receipt of goods that what they picked up?
I believe we get
And then
a
you balance that to
weight.
the fees collected?
So we are tracking weight. That's something
So
that
you just go by weight, not by item?
well, I mean, it's like bulky waste, right? They're going to come up and they'll take the container away. We won't
Like refrigerator.
refrigerators and things.
20
Yes,
pound propane tank.
we should. That I don't know. I don't know if we have like a quantity that goes along with that.
There are some items I know that get picked up from programs. I'll use mattresses as an example. If you put your mattress into that little bin area, there is no charge for the town as part of a mandate relative to the recycling for beds. So the person doesn't pay to put their mattress there and we don't pay for it to get picked up. That happens that way. To your point on the bulky waste, like the metal, they might collect X number of dollars, but it isn't like they're weighing it. It's being done, to your point, by an item saying, okay, you threw a metal chair in there, you threw a metal table, but when Albert Brothers comes and takes that away, it is just what that weighs is what we're gonna get for a reimbursement. So you have to take all those
So you
items
get-
to
you get-
offset them.
But I'm talking about the individual items that are collected.
Right. So like propane tanks and, you know, the things that
Air
we're,
conditioners, you don't
Right.
throw those in bulky waste.
no, no.
So I'm talking about the individual items.
Most of those items down below are part of programs that just get picked up, so.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Some is, some isn't.
Right, I think
You know, and I
most
think
of
that,
them-
and that's something, you know, I mean, Susan's really, she's been tasked with trying to bring that, you know, a little bit more fiscal responsibility around that and a little more tracking. And she's been doing a great job with that, but I don't know whether we've gotten down to that detail or not at this point, but I'll take that as an action item and look at it and just say, you know, and just get an understanding. Because I actually, I was there last Saturday and I was talking to Bill, and I believe that we actually pay by weight for e-waste. And he's going like, well, there's another supplier that will take the e-waste away for free. And I don't know why we're not using them. And this is like, okay, great point. Susan, can you go look into this thing? Because if we can, you know, have them take away that waste for free, then
Are you talking about used oil?
no, the e-waste, like the old computers,
Oh.
laptops, TV sets, things like that.
E-waste meaning electronic?
E-waste, electronic waste, right?
Right, but I know right now, you, as a resident, you just make a deposit, you just put your stuff there.
But we're paying,
Right.
but the thing is that the
Free.
town actually pays for some of the stuff to be taken away. Even though, so we may not be, you know, charging a somebody to put that in there, we're paying for it. And
But shouldn't we?
well, that's part of the thing. If we get this person that takes it away for free,
I'm paying for this guy to throw away the computer screen.
Well, it's better than in the woods. There's a certain balance, I think.
Just.
yeah, no, I'm,
We're moving forward.
yeah, I think we have, there's a lot of room for us to work in the transfer station.
Okay, got a few more here.
Yep. Rest of the items are pretty small. We got social services, Region 14, which was rounding, Health Department, which is a bill we get from the region, and the bond interest, the largest one of 28 cents.
So the health department, don't we get a fee? Don't we have a budgeted amount for them? And why would it go up
So we do get a budgeted amount from them.
Yeah.
Yep. I think a lot of it's based on like population, right? So I don't know specifically why that one went up, but I do know when we're going through the 26-27 budget, they did change the number after the original budget was issued. So I don't know if that's something that happened last year too. I'm not positive about that, but we do get billed for that.
You could build the beginning
Yeah.
of the fiscal year.
July 1st.
Yeah, we got a lot of bills on July 1st. That
Right.
was,
So are you done going through the list, or you still have one more to go?
Oh, yep. The last one we kind of talked about was
Right.
the transfer to the capital reserve due to the bond. So it's a 50,300. That's the last one.
Okay, which bond fund did that come out of?
Oh,
That's not a bond,
that's
cap reserve.
yes. So that was the bonds that we're paying. Every
Bond
year we
is in what we're paying back, not as in related
Correct.
to our expenditures.
Right. Okay,
So we're gonna have a surplus, correct?
Yeah, it's too soon to tell though.
And then part of that surplus goes into the capital reserve. I'm trying to recall.
We're going to get to discuss that when we get closer to knowing what
Oh,
that
good.
number is going to be. If it's going to go into unassigned fund balance or if we want to put some of it back
So
into
we can,
cap reserve, we're able to discuss that once we get that number. But what we have to do now, just as a reminder, and why Nairi went through these the way she did, pursuant to section 703A1 of the town charter, budget transfers within the department that are less than $5,000 require the approval of the first selectman, which was done. Budget transfers exceeding the 5,000 require a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen, which they did last night, and require us to approve it as the Board of Finance. So I would like to ask if there's any more questions on the transfers, because if not, I'm going to propose a motion.
so I have a question. Are there state regulations or statutes that apply to the transfers that we make that are not also covered in our charter? So clearly you've looked through the charter, you made a list, made a process, and that works well, it sounds like. But I wondered if the state had rules that don't necessarily get into our charter but apply to us nonetheless.
No, our charter is written consistent with the statutes of the state, and the charter supersedes items from there.
Okay.
I only say that knowing it from being on charter revision. So I move, let's get the right, here. I move that the Board of Finance approve the budget transfers exceeding $5,000 as presented in the budget transfer summary dated July 28, 2026, and the general fund expenditure report dated July 28, 2026. Both documents shall be attached to the meeting minutes and incorporated into the public record. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you very much. And not to hurt anybody's feelings, but we're done for tonight. Meeting adjourned at 8:40.
Give me 1 second. 1 second.